So hi, my name is James Robertson, software developer, and I'm going to be talking about having fun building tiny open source tools. So this will be quite different from the other talks tonight, very different from the one before. It's not going to be about large, big open source projects, not household names, but known projects. It'll be more about me going through and open sourcing some of the tools that I've made, small things to help myself out, small productivity tools, things like that, and my process of open sourcing those things and putting them out and allowing other people to get a bit of value from them. So yeah, this is going to be a lightning talk. It's going to be about 10 minutes or something like that. And I was going to give a quick definition of what a tiny tool is. To me, it's kind of a made-up phrase, but for me, it is something that I've built in a day or two, maybe a week or something like that, and it solves one of my own little problems. Either something at work that's annoying me, automating something in my personal life, a useful little tool like that. I'll just give you a quick rundown of what I'm going to go through. I'll give you more of an introduction about myself, why doing this sort of thing is good, what interesting learnings there are. I'll go through a few examples of these sort of projects so you can see what small things I've put out there, and then I'm going to go end to end on the most recent thing that I'm working on, and show you kind of beginning from idea to building to actually putting it out there and getting it in front of some people. So yeah. No tech talk is complete without a random Steve Jobs quote, so there's mine, but I think this is quite relevant and quite good. So computers are like bicycles for the mind. And what he meant by this was that humans, when you measure them against other animals, aren't particularly impressive. If you do a league table of attributes, things like efficiency and what we're capable of, humans actually rank kind of somewhere in the middle on lots of those things. That is until you give us, we have a tool. We create a tool, for example, the bicycle, a reasonably simple tool that suddenly makes us, in terms of getting around the place, the most efficient animal at doing that. So I think that's just nice to bear in mind how much we rely on tools and things like that, and how important they are for us as people. So yeah, a bit more about me. I'm a software engineer. I've done it for about 10 years. I've worked at a bunch of different sized companies. I worked at the BBC for 5 years. I've worked at a few different startups. I'm currently working at MIXCLOUD, which is a music streaming startup. In terms of technical stuff, I've done, back in the day, a bit of PHP, a fair bit of Python, and tons and tons and tons of JavaScript stuff. So I've built user interfaces, server-side stuff, native apps, all with JavaScript. JavaScript has kind of risen during my career. I've kind of followed that trajectory. In the last sort of 10 years, it's gone from thing that runs in a browser to kind of everywhere, and that's kind of tracked in my career as well. And I like working on side projects, so quite like having a bit of a blank canvas to work on something of my own, fix a problem in my life, start from scratch and creating something new. It's kind of something I really enjoy doing. So yeah, why open source these little tools? We'll go through what the tools are, examples in a sec, but why would you want to take something that you've made that's good for you? What is the point in putting it out there for other people to use? So there's a few things. Giving back is quite nice. As we've just seen, lots of people, lots of devs, lots of companies make use of open source software all the time. And we don't often put stuff out there. And it's quite nice to give back and provide some value back to the community. It's great for me for learning, sharing and connecting. It's pretty good. In terms of learning, you're obviously learning some new technologies, which is nice. I quite also like some of the softer stuff that you learn in terms of dealing with people and networking, these sorts of things that comes along with open sourcing stuff. Sharing is great, so it gives you something to put out there on all the various platforms. If you're putting it on Twitter or blogging about it, it's a nice resource to be sharing and putting out there and connecting. You'll find, or I've been finding, as I've been doing this over the last few months, that when you put stuff out there and you're public about it, people get in contact with you and they go, how does this work? How do you change this? How do I contribute to this? Which is nice, kind of building a network and connecting with people. So kind of unexpected benefits of doing this stuff for me as the creator of these things. And it's easier than ever and rewarding. So as was mentioned, GitHub is a huge thing now. This stuff is reasonably easy to put out there and distribute, and people understand the GitHub tools and will be able to discover your stuff and pull it down and make use of it quite easily. And it's rewarding. It's nice seeing something you've made that has fixed a problem for yourself and having other people use it and go, that actually really helped me. So it's a rewarding experience. So yeah, examples of these tiny tools that I've been going on about. So this is some stuff that I've built recently, last sort of over the course of this year really. One was a SaaS Kickstarter tool. I spend quite a bit of time making SaaS projects, random little ideas, and it always shocked me how long it would take to get started up with that sort of thing. So a SaaS product having like payments and users and auth and all that sort of stuff. I would usually have an idea for a SaaS, and then about 3 days later, I have finally set up the project so I can begin on it, and kind of lost interest. So I decided that I needed a tool to shortcut that a little bit. So that's just a simple tool where you can say, I want my SaaS to have the foundations of this tech stack, a few of these features, and there you go, hey presto. Put that out onto Indie Hackers, which is a forum for where a lot of people build SaaS products and build them in public and things like that, and I got a decent response of people making use of that one. Another one was an example newsletter follow-up tool rather. So the story behind that one, I started writing a newsletter last year, and I was using something called Substack, which is a reasonably new platform for newsletters. It's really cool and the shiny new thing, so I decided to use that. However, missing some reasonably core functionality. And one of those was following up with the newsletter. So if someone didn't read your email that week, the newsletter email that week, it was a little nudge to say, hey, you may have missed it, you might find this interesting. So that's just an automated tool that I put together. And again, that was just useful for me. And I put that out there on a few different places, and other more technical users of Substack managed to pick that up and get increase our engagement for their newsletters by using that tool as well, which is cool to see. And the final one is a dynamic Twitter header. So I joined Twitter really recently. I kind of late to the game there a few months ago, and I wanted something to make the profile stand out a little bit. So what I did was build a little tool for myself that was basically use my header image on my Twitter profile to give a big thank you to my latest follower. Just a little novelty thing that would just make the profile stand out and kind of drive a little bit of chat on Twitter. That one's quite good because it's actually visual, so you can see it. So I've got a picture. So that's this is a shameless plug for my Twitter profile. Follow me and we can be friends. And you'll appear in the top as well, which will be cool. The tool can be a little bit slow sometimes, so you might not see yourself immediately, but you will appear eventually. So that's me, profile, a dynamic Twitter header at the top. So that's plugging into the Twitter API, generating the image dynamically, putting their profile pic in the middle, some party emojis, and saying thank you. So that was a fun thing. That one I wasn't planning to make open. That was I was just thinking I'll have that for me. But a bunch of people saw it on Twitter, and I got a bunch of DMs saying, "Can I use this? How do I get a version of this with a different font and some colours?" So that eventually that made sense to put that one out as well, and that's been used on a bunch of different people's profiles. So yeah, just general fun to be had doing this sort of stuff, really. I was going to just walk you through the most recent thing that I'm working on, so you can see a project from a kind of idea all the way through to the end. So yeah, the problem. And I'd be really interested to know how many people have this problem, because this is becoming one of my biggest pet peeves, is, especially as an engineer, the amount of digital communications tools that I have to be across in my day job is huge and growing. So by that I'm thinking GitHub, Slack, collaboration tools like Miro, design tools, Figma. All of these things now have like the functionality for having chat and conversations go on inside them. And if I'm working on something across a couple of projects, my day basically consists of cycling through these tools, trying to find the right conversations that I care about across 10 different applications. And it's hard to keep track. So I kind of got a bit annoyed with this, and I was thinking, how can I solve this problem? The cool thing is that all of these tools, these modern digital communications tools, usually have decent APIs, and they're pushing out these events for people to consume. So it kind of occurred to me, let's just aggregate this stuff together. I need a one-stop shop where I can see all this information. So that was the general idea, the problem, and a rough solution. Features it needed, what I was thinking about in terms of the features. I wanted a real-time aggregated list of all the information, all the events that were happening in the different tools that I cared about. So so basically just easy. I could see a one stop. It needs to be real time because it's communication. It needs to be reasonably snappy. Searchable as well. The big thing here is a reasonably advanced search. If we're putting all the events and conversations in one place, I need to be able to filter it down. So a reasonably advanced search where I can do decent matching on things and nots and ands and these sorts of things. I wanted deep linking. So I needed to be able to get back into the applications where the conversations were happening. I didn't want to have to reply in this tool. I wanted it to be simple, but I did want to, if something popped up and I thought, that's important for me. I want to be able to open that application and have it deep linked down to where I need to be within that tool, so I can just reply or do other actions. And the final thing was a bit of I didn't really need it, but I felt I really wanted it, was extensibility. This thing's going to integrate with tons of stuff, and I didn't want to have to, every single time, write from scratch a new integration and reinvent the wheel there. So when a new tool comes along, inevitably at work, I want to be able to easily add that tool to this tool and have the two things talk to each other. So extensibility was a key one. Demo. Demo is a bit of a stretch, to be honest. It's a screenshot. I did have a video. I was going to demo the whole thing, but I thought I can't risk it. And I think this place is called like the Bunker or something like that, the Chamber. I was like, there's going to be no internet in that. I'm not even going to risk it. And then I had a video, but I went for a screenshot, nice and simple, nice and clear. It's a very basic UI, but it kind of does the job. So just giving you a rough tour of it. These are all the events coming in. I've kind of just used dummy data for this, so you don't have to see all of my rubbish going through Slack. But yeah, so events coming in, real-time list, updating. There's a WebSocket in the background, just making sure it's all pretty snappy. And on the left-hand side, you can see the service where the event is emerged from. So I'm hooking into Slack, Figma, and GitHub at the minute. In the middle, you have the message itself, so that'll say things like a new pull request has been created, or a design document around blah has changed. You might want to have a look at it. There's a button to open it, so that would, if I clicked on there, I would be deep linked into, for example, the Slack conversation that I cared about, and then some timing information on the right-hand side. And then at the top, yeah, there's a search bar, so I can do advanced search in there, so I can search for exact matches, or even does fuzzy search and things like that. So that's roughly what it looks like. So that's pretty good, up and running. So that's the thing built. But in terms of actually open sourcing this stuff, like that's not done, right? That's working for me, and that's cool. So opening it up, what are the steps there? And I found this with all the things I've made. There's been a couple of key steps, so just to point them out. Step one, you'll be lucky if you don't have to do this, but usually some effort to make it generic. If you built something for yourself, there's going to be, depending on what you've built, some need to make it a bit generic so other people can run it on their machine. There'll be no doubt that phase. For the thing I just showed you, I had to be a bit careful about thinking about security, like making sure that everyone's messages are going to be private, if that sort of information is flowing through it. So that was the additional step beyond just making it work on my machine. Next is make it public. But as we've kind of heard, that's kind of reasonably easy nowadays with GitHub and distribution on there. Like you can put a project together easily and for free, and people understand that and know how to pull it. So you've got something that can be made public quite easily. And then the last step is, a lot of people might think this is the dull one, and I probably fell into that category until recently, but you got to document it. But for me, this is the cool step, because this is where it becomes real. If you do the other steps, you've made something, you kind of put it out there, fair enough. It's when you document it and you've got a user manual of how to use it and installation in, steps and instructions. It's at that point other people can use your stuff, and that's quite cool. This is the point it becomes a real usable thing with some value. Slightly random tips. I've been in making interesting documentation. I've been trying to do a bit more with video recently, like video walkthroughs of stuff. So it isn't just a block of text. Video walkthroughs of the installation, the setup, and key features. And another nice one is GIFs as a really concise medium for showing the fundamentals of getting set up with your project. It's quite nice. It limits you to a few seconds to try and demonstrate the core of your user manual or installation steps or anything like that. So that's getting towards it, but we also kind of want a few users for this sort of stuff. If we're going to put it out there, we're going to make the effort to put it out there. So here's some stuff I've been doing to kind of garner a few initial users. Cool thing is, I always build this stuff for myself, so I've got one user straight off the bat, which is good. But going beyond that, so getting the first users from your network. So for me, that means building stuff in public, like showing work in progress, putting it out there on a few different forums and Twitter and socials. And it's not the finished product, but you're kind of building as you go. And that's your first group of people who want to try it, because people are going to see that. They're going to get kind of excited about it, and they're going to say, hey, when's this thing ready? Can I see it when it's ready? So there you've got a batch of people you can, when it's up and running, you can ping out and say, hey, it's ready, and give it a try. So that's been a good way to get some initial users. And a good one as well is people you work with, people sat, maybe not anymore, sat next to you, but the people you work with around you. If you've solved a problem at work for yourself, chances are your colleagues are going to have a similar problem. So there's a ready-made a bunch of people who are initial users. So that's one group to hit up as well. So just quickly, a couple of unexpected benefits of this entire process, which I started doing only a few months ago. This has been something new and exciting to do. I didn't know what it would lead to, but it's been some really cool stuff that's come off the back of it. I was asked to appear on a podcast, which was completely random and unexpected, but a nice benefit. They'd just seen some of the stuff I was doing, and it was a tech podcast, and they asked just to come on and chat about it. So a random thing I never thought I would do. I got to do that off the back of this. I got coached by an AWS evangelist, again, kind of saw some stuff I was doing and offered some free advice, and we were doing phone calls, and he was chatting through some stuff. He even helped with these slides. So if they're rubbish, then I blame the evangelist, the AWS guy. And then, the final one, connected with some devs in Africa, which was I've never thought to have done, but they saw one of the projects online and were asking about contributing. And actually, I think they're going to be the first couple of guys. They're going to be the first contributors to that thing you just saw before. They're going to build a few different integrations for it, which is just nice and random and good just to build a network. So wrapping up. I would say, and people may disagree with me, but I would say opening up even small projects is a good thing to do, a nice healthy thing to do, good to give back and good for yourself to learn and develop and all these sorts of things. Beyond that, I have seen similar things done in companies. So for an engineering manager or a tech lead, I have seen in the past and been part of engineers who have built tools, internal tools to help with the day job, and they have been given the additional extra time to open source those things, which I think is a great thing for devs to be able to do, a nice break from just working in your maybe standard agile build the product way. For an engineer to have something that they've built internally and put it out there and have all the benefits that I've just been through, I think that's a nice, rewarding, morale-building thing to do. So this could even work inside of companies if you've got some small tools that are appropriate to be open sourced in this way. I'm just saying, basically, you don't have to be building the next Linux to be open sourcing stuff. But if you are, that's cool as well. And I think that's basically me.